Well, thank you for joining me, and enough of that nonsense. I am back, and hopefully I'm not gone for too long now. First and foremost, happy belated New Year's to everyone, and hopefully 2021 will be a much better year for both, let's say, mentally and this whole COVID situation, and hopefully from an Arsenal perspective as well. And so far, it's looking like 2021 has been quite kind to us, and we have been on a winning streak. So since I last addressed you guys out there, we were sat 15th, we were just about to play Chelsea, and there was me saying Chelsea can absolutely smash us, and that was one sort of nail from Arteta's coffin being made, and him out the door. But since then, we've gone and beat Chelsea, haven't we? And it was a quite convincing performance from our squad. But then again, Chelsea didn't have their best games, but we still got to sort of play our best, and we did that, and we managed to beat them quite comfortably, 3-1 at home. We then played Brighton, which wasn't too convincing, and we registered our first attempt on shot at the 28th minute, and we won by a 1-0 goal by Saka's great run, which he cut back to Alexander Lacazette, who's been on fine form recently, and that moves on nicely to our following game, which we played West Brom over the weekend. Convincing victory, 4-0, Alexander Lacazette with 2 goals, and there was that one brilliant play in terms of our second goal where Saka scored. The interlink between Smith Rowe, Lacazette and Saka, absolutely beautiful. Sort of reminiscent of Wenger ball, and that looked really tidy. So, to address some of you guys out there who are very, very concerned about me and trying to understand what is my state currently with Arteta, and yes, believe it or not, I have had many people messaging me saying, are you still Arteta out? I even had someone straight after the West Brom game immediately message me on Twitter. It was about the 80-something minute within the game itself. This guy was more focused to understand whether I'm still regretful of the things I said about Arteta. And just to sort of address everyone who is wondering, am I now back in full faith with Arteta? No, I'm not. Reason being, just hear me out, let me explain. It's because it wasn't out of his own accord to play the youngsters. I've been screaming, playing the likes of Emil Smith-Rowe since God knows when. I've been screaming, play Balogun ahead of Eddie Nketiah. Yet he still goes on and selects the same old senior players who continuously let him down. So I felt as if his hands were forced due to illnesses and certain players contracting COVID or being within the same vicinity as people with COVID. And therefore, we had the likes of Willian, Luiz, Gabriel Magalhaes, and a few others who can't play and want in the squad. And I think if Willian was fit, we would have never seen Smith Rowe. And that's the reality. I think the difference is Unai Emery wasn't afraid to give these youngsters their opportunity, whereas Arteta's more of a timid manager. Remember when Martinelli first came in and he came from the Brazilian 4th Division? Unai Emery was brave enough after seeing a few glimpses of him in training. So you know what, mate, you're training with the first team. And after that, he made his debut in the Carabao Cup, I'd like to think. I believe he played in the Carabao Cup before he played in the Europa League. And he looked outstanding, and he got his breakout. Saka gave him his breakout. And Emil Smith-Rowe last season, Unai Emery played him. And the season before that, apologies. However, with Mikel Arteta, he's so reluctant to trial out youngsters, and he doesn't give them any opportunities. And I feel as if it were up to him and those decisions weren't forced, we would never see Emil Smith-Rowe break out. We would still be here discussing, oh, it's January. Should we be looking at Isco? Is Isco available? But, you know, it's these sort of things, and it really annoys me. Mate, you're 15th. You're 15th. You've got nothing to lose. You know what I mean? If you've got nothing to lose, just try out the youngsters. Worst case scenario, you're still sat 15th. But I'm glad things are going well, and the only credit, I can give Arteta is he has still persisted playing these youngsters. But what really frustrates me is you've seen the likes of Martinelli, the likes of Saka, the likes of Smith Rowe, and a massive difference they've made in your team. So can you imagine what we could do if we integrated Saliba and Balogun in our squad, and where we could actually be? Imagine had he trusted the youth from the outset before the season even started. Where could we possibly be right now? We could be sat here, perhaps speaking of a title challenge. If you sort of think about it right now, we're not too far ahead of, I believe we're only 10 points behind Liverpool. Yeah, I don't expect us to win the title, by the way. That's not what I'm saying. Realistically, I think getting top 4 is achievable. And when everyone sort of said, yeah, our team is rubbish, we're not good enough, we are sat 15th, then I don't believe that. And so why is it some of you fans out there now, all of a sudden, are hopeful that we can get top 4? It's funny because the narrative has changed. 2 weeks ago, it was the players are crap, we need to back Arteta, they're useless. Now I'm hearing, we're only 3 points behind Chelsea. Oh my god, had we done this and that now, had we beaten this team, beaten that team, we would be in top 4. But didn't some of you guys say we weren't good enough squad-wise to be in the top 4? I don't think our squad's, in the top 4, not at all. I still think we're flirting with sort of 6th, 7th best squad in the league. But I think with a few decent additions, we can sort of bring it up to that spot where we can challenge and compete to be in the top 4 consistently. And we're not that far away, if I'm honest with you. But that moves us on nicely. Since it's January, and we all know what that means. The transfer window has officially opened, the winter window that is, and I've always said it's quite imperative that we get rid of some of the existing players that we have within our squad. The likes of Mustafi, Kolasinac, who we have, and I'll get on to him, who else, Socrates, etc. So a lot of these players who have less than a year remaining on a contract, it's just best part ways now. Realistically, are we going to get any fees for them? No. So why not, if they're going to go for free anyways come the summer, let's just mutually agree to cut their contract if they can find a suitable club for him. As I did sort of say, outgoings for me are the most important thing right now in terms of this transfer window. And in terms of the outgoings, as I mentioned, we have this guy here, or should I point that way, whichever way it is. Yeah, this guy here who some of you might recognize him. Yes, it is Ozil security guard, also known as Sead Kolasinac of Arsenal Football Club, or formerly Arsenal Football Club. He's now returned home to go Schalke, and fair play to him, he has foregone half his wages in that move, which makes you think, Ozil, maybe you want to sort of do something along the lines, if you really love football, if you still want to salvage your career, maybe sort of take a leaf out of your security guard book. The only downside, or maybe it's not a downside actually, I was about to say the only downside to Sead Kolasinac leaving is Ozil's no longer got a bodyguard. But maybe if Ozil's vulnerable, he's not got a bodyguard and he's too scared to live in London, that might actually force him to move abroad. So maybe this might actually work in our best interest, kill 2 birds with 1 stone, get rid of Sead Kolasinac, and then therefore his body is left stranded alone and he might have to move elsewhere. But as I mentioned, Sead Kolasinac, the first casualty to leave, and it is a 6 months loan deal, which makes it a bit interesting because come June his contract is over, and Schalke are in a very peculiar position because they're currently sat last in the Bundesliga. So what happens if they don't manage to stay up? Does that mean sort of I don't see us extending his contract? So I'm assuming he'll just be a free agent, and I don't think Schalke, if they were to be demoted, they will sign him up. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with Schalke and what happens with Sead. But all the best, mate. I'm not going to sit here and say he was amazing, he was a great player, because if I'm honest with you, there was only one game that I could sort of remember where he had an outstanding performance, and that was that Community Shield against Chelsea, and he looked like a beast where he just ran with the ball, and the likes of Willian, etc. could not close him down, or even sort of barge him off the ball. But other than that, he's just sort of failed to deceive, really, and hopefully we don't make bad decisions like that in future, just going after free transfers without doing proper due diligence, without understanding what sort of player is he, how will he fit the system. But moving on nicely to our next player. Sorry, what am I doing there? Saliba. It's confirmed he has now moved on to Nice. And if all goes well, it looks like he might be playing Brest on Wednesday. Yeah, I know. He's moved to Nice. Nice playing Brest. Okay, I'll stop. That's a bit childish. But yeah, so all going according to plan. He will feature on Wednesday to play Brest, and they do have quite a young team. Nice, I think the average age is about 23, 24 years of age. As we know, our former legend Patrick Vieira has left the club, so they're not in the greatest position, but they're not in sort of relegation position either, which might be decent for him because he's not got no real pressure, not got relegation pressure, neither does he have any pressure to try win any championships or even get into European positions. One thing though that does really concern me about this whole situation is, why did we loan him out to a French club? And if we did loan him out to a French club, surely Saint Etienne made more sense. For me, the whole purpose was that Arteta was saying that he doesn't have a transition season and he never had that. So surely, don't you want him to acclimatise and adapt to English football? What? I don't know. Someone try to explain to me. Someone who might know where Edu and Arteta's coming from with this whole situation, because for me, it's been a farce from day dot. Absolute farce. Before I go in and give my piece on where the club has gone wrong with this, let's just look at some of the quotes Edu has had to sort of say on the whole Saliba situation. And this is reported by Chris Wheatley. Let me sort of make my face a bit smaller so you guys out there can see some of these passage texts. There you go. You don't have to see me. Let's look at the more important things here, which is the context of Chris Wheatley's message here on Edu. So, according to Chris, Edu and Saliba, William Saliba is a player with a huge amount of talent and potential. We're confident he will have a great career with us, but we must remember that he's still only 19 years old and has a lot of time ahead of him. Edu further goes on to sort of say, if I can find my mouse, what does Edu say? There you go. Edu further goes on to say, William experienced a very challenging time last year with his playing time limited by injury and the early ending of Liga season due to the pandemic. Together with William, we've decided that spending the rest of the season on loan with Nice is the best way for him to develop. We'll be keeping in close contact with William during his time with Nice and look forward to seeing him make good progress until the end of the season. So, okay, it's all great saying this and that you really care for the kid's development, but let's be real, yeah? Let's call a spade a spade. You have absolutely ruined 6 months of the kid's career by playing him, rotting him in the under-23s. Now, the whole Saliba situation was, we signed him from Saint Etienne back in 2019 for 27 million. When we did sign him, we were competing with a whole host of clubs, including our big rival, Tottenham Hotspurs. And I remember when we sort of beat the likes of Spurs to sign him. And to be fair, yes, I am one of these fans who was following Saliba before we actually signed him. And I followed him even more once we signed him and we loaned him out back to Saint Etienne. So I was obviously gassed, and I was like, yes, we've got Saint Etienne, we've got, this big guy, he can either be the next Varane / Van Dijk. And I thought, yes, we've got a promising centre-back coming in. Likewise, many of us did actually think when we signed Gabriel this summer and Saliba, we all assumed come first game of the season against Fulham, many of us thought Saliba would start. And we didn't expect Gabriel to have started because he just joined the club within 2 weeks. So I thought Saliba would go on, kick on, and prove to everyone that he is the Rolls Royce of French defenders. He is the next Mbappe of defenders, and he is everything that has been said about him out there in France and more, and all the guys he used to play with, and all the credits and how they sort of praise his name. And then what happened was we loaned him back, and a series of injuries as well as the pandemic closing Liga has made that he didn't play as many games as he liked. However, there were moments when he was injured and he did return to London Colony. Furthermore, there were moments when he was injured and he was back in London, and he even appeared he even appeared within the Arsenal fans at the stands watching the game at the Emirates. So Arsenal did sort of see him, and they've had quite some time to review him. Yes, Mikel Arteta joined December, but even in that period, there was a few times Saliba returned to London Colony for rehab and to review his injuries. Likewise, prior to the sort of the French Cup final, when there was discussion about extending his loan, Saliba came back to London for further treatment. So Mikel Arteta has had plenty of time to see him. And then Saliba returned full-time towards the end of July. And yet, the transfer window closed on October 5th. And surely by then he would have made an assessment during that whole long spell. You know what? Maybe this kid's not ready. Maybe he needs a further loan. But he didn't. It wasn't until sort of the last 24 to 48 hours of the transfer window where they made a decision, actually, this kid needs a transition season. Let's loan him out. But in that meantime, they were too busy doing a lot of deadline day dealings with the Thomas Partey, Mola, Omar Rakitic, and the youngster from Ajax who we signed as well. So the paperwork wasn't done on time, hence why Saint Etienne were furious, and all those comments by Claude Puel, who is their manager, blasted Arsenal, saying that we care little about his development, etc. And he's very right about that. If we did not think he was right, and if we thought he was not ready, we've got this £27 million massive asset sat in our club. Why didn't we loan him out? Why did we make him rot in the under-23s? Now, you see Wesley Fofana at Leicester City and seeing the growth he's made. And it's just a shame that I'm sort of seeing Saliba at Arsenal regressing whilst I'm seeing his compatriot, his best mate, setting the Premier League alight and him playing extremely well. He's got the Leicester City fans praising his name. And then we've got Saliba, who was deemed to be the better out of the two, deemed to be not ready. Saliba's deemed not to be good enough. He's seen as inferior to the likes of Mustafi, Luiz, and these type of players who are leaving us in June. Yet, he's a player who's here for the future. Now, some of you guys might sit here and be like, yo, you don't see him day-to-day in training, you don't know what you're saying. Maybe. But then again, I like you to think back when this same manager was stubborn to play Emile Smith role. Yeah? It took a Willian not to play for him to bring Emile Smith role. This is the same manager who I have come to an agreement with everyone else that I don't think Pepe is good anymore. Yeah? I've dropped the whole back in Pepe claim now, and I've admitted I can't defend the guy. But even then, Pepe is still better than Willian. Let's be real here. Yeah? This is the same manager that believes Eddie Nketiah is better than Balogun. So when you try to tell me, oh, he might know more, not necessarily, because Arteta still thinks Granit Xhaka is the key. He still thinks Ainsley is not good enough to play in our midfield. He still thinks Bellerina is our answer. He at the time thought Martinez was not good enough and Leno was better. Now you sort of see what Martinez is doing at Aston Villa, and it makes me actually think, wow, had Martinez stayed, had we played Saliba from the start, had we played Emile Smith Rowe from the start, had we put Balogun ahead of Eddie Nketiah, and if we had a fit Thomas Partey, where could we realistically be? And that's a good question, guys. Where do you think, had Arteta not made the mistakes he made, where could we possibly be so far in the season? In terms of the list I mentioned, if we started Saliba, if we kept Martinez and continued with Martinez as our starting goalkeeper, if we played Emile Smith Rowe since the return of his injury back in November, if we had never signed Willian, if we perhaps dropped Bellerina for a competent right back, where realistically do you think we would be right now in the league? Because honestly, I think we'll be in top 4. But that's just my opinion. But going back to the whole sort of Saliba situation, and I sort of mentioned about Wesley Fofana, seeing his compatriot do it brilliantly, and then I'm sort of seeing Saliba, who's not really doing it for us because of not providing the opportunity. It's interesting to see Wesley Fofana's Instagram story yesterday, where he posted this after Saliba posted him joining Nice. And he's referred back to that whole thing about being free, being locked up. Remember that conversation Saliba, Guendouzi and Pepe had on Instagram a few weeks back, where Saliba and Guendouzi joked about being locked up in Arsenal? Surely there's something bigger going on, and we're not, previewed to it at all. And this is where the club hierarchy needs to come out and be more transparent. We're not asking to be transparent in terms of future transfer dealings, but in terms of the players we currently have, we need more clarity. Why is he not playing? Why is he not ready? Why did it take you few unforeseen circumstances which has prevented the likes of Willian from playing for you to entrust Emil Smith-Rowe? Also, the question, why do you still believe Eddie Nketiah is ahead of Balogun when this kid is threatening to leave us because he doesn't want to sign a contract without any assertive game times? It's a lot of questions that need to be answered, and I just feel, for me, stuff like this, when you sort of see other players from other teams speaking about our situation. Fofana, who plays for Leicester City, who's got no business with our situation except that his best mate at Arsenal is being treated like a mug who feels like he's frozen out. It's just sad to see. And what will it do for future French youngsters who want to join us? Let's say if we wanted to go and sign a Camavinga, and now he knows about the whole Saliba situation, the whole Guendouzi, he might be mates with Fofana, and Fofana be like, no, don't go Arsenal, yeah? You know what happens at Arsenal? Speak to Saliba, like, this is what I hear about Arsenal, this is what they do to youngsters, blah, blah, blah. And then Camavinga, etc., might think, yeah, actually, sod that, not going over there. It's all these years that, of us building this relationship with sort of the French players over the years, with Wenger and him bringing in the likes of Henri, Vieira, and so many youngsters looked up to Arsenal Football Club. All of that hard work might go down the drain after a few incidents with some of the youngsters we have currently. But I don't want to go too much about Saliba, and hopefully I wish him all the best, and I really, really wish that he comes back a proven, better player, and I hope Mikel Arteta is watching, and I'll be watching the game as well, and I'll be following very closely, and I hope many fans do, just so we know how brilliant this guy is and what he could potentially bring us going forward. Thankfully, there's no option to buy, so it tells me that he's still part of our future plan, and that's a good thing. So I feel really bad for him, and we wasted 6 months of his career, but hopefully he bangs it out there in France, and touch wood, he gets no injuries, and he has a successful loan spell. But moving on to other potential outgoings, well, it's been clear that Mohamed El Neni is not going to go to Besiktas, and Arteta sees El Neni as being part of his future plans. Yeah, I've always maintained he's a decent squad player, but I don't really rate Mohamed El Neni highly. For me, if we were to get a 10 million plus, actually, no, I lie. If we were to get anything over £8 million, I would take, honestly, for El Neni. 8 millions plus, I would take for El Neni, and that's without me being exaggerating or me guessing up the situation. Honestly, give me 8 mil, take him. Adios. Moving on to other stories, and this is more around incomings now. So, I know previously, prior to the whole emergence of ESR, we were all sat here speaking that we need a creative midfielder, we need this and that. Funny enough, by the way, how I kept banging on that we should just play Emil Smith-Rowe until the January window, because he actually might be the option. Just like I said months ago that Kieran Tierney should be captain, and now everyone else is jumping onto that hype. Yeah, I mean, don't get twisted, I'm glad everyone's sort of seeing the way I'm thinking and coming to my terms. And so it makes me feel like, yes, maybe you're a pioneer, and maybe people are a bit slow catching up to what you're saying. But we have been linked to Buendia, and I'd sort of say that creative midfielder wasn't as high of a priority as it was previously. Do I still think we need to go out there and strengthen? Yes, I do. Only because of the injuries record of Emil Smith-Rowe and his history of injuries. So I think you might want to just bring someone in just because you can't really guarantee Emil Smith-Rowe would last the whole season. You can't guarantee with any player, to be fair, but Emil Smith-Rowe is just more prone to injuries than your average Joe out there. But according to James Bench, Emi Buendia is ready to push for an Arsenal move if Gunners firm up interest in Norwich star. So far, only informal talks have taken place over the move for the Argentine playmaker. Now, what do I personally think on Buendia? I'll be honest with you guys, I don't know too much. I haven't seen too much of Buendia. I'm not going to lie, like many Arsenal fans who on social media claim out to be him being the next Lionel Messi. Let's relax. These are the same Arsenal fans in the summer were sort of glorifying Hussamoa. The same Arsenal fans in November/early December went on and spoke about Dominic Szoboszlai being the next best thing since bread. So how has it that our expectations has been diminished from a semi-finalist in the Champions League in Hussamoa to a player that participates in the Champions League in Dominic Szoboszlai to a player in the Championship? Oh yeah, it is Arsenal fans after all, and we are the same fan base whose expectation went from competing and winning the league title to let's get top four to now, based on the other script where I mentioned that Arteta wants to keep El Nene so we could push on for a Europe spot and to finish in the top half of the table. So is this what Arsenal has come to? We're now content with finishing in European positions, and therefore we're now content with a Championship player. By the way, I'm not having a go at Championship players at all, and I don't want you to take that or misquote that, yeah? Buendia, from what I've seen, he looks like a decent, neat player. From some of the YouTube clips I've seen, he sort of reminds me of Santi Cazorla, but then again, I'm not going to go off on a player based on YouTube. From the games I have seen him, which was the 2 games against us last season, he didn't look amazing. To be fair, I thought Todd Cantwell looked better than him next to him. However, do I rate Cantwell? Not really. Do I think Buendia is the answer? I don't know. The jury is out there. But it just makes me question, why is it all of a sudden that we've gone from Hussamoa to Szoboszlai to Buendia in a matter of months? That shows me there's no structure, there's no plan by the club board. And what I'd like to say is, if Hussamoa is our main target, and if that is who Arteta and the board want, then go for it. Yeah, I'm tired of the cheap option. If Buendia is generally the first option now, for whatever reason, they might have done more, work. They've looked at further analytics. They've looked at him in terms of other aspects of his gameplay. Maybe viewed him in training. They like his attitude, and they've now identified him as being number one. Then fair play. But then, how comes your number one target has changed so much in such a short amount of space? It's very worrying when I hear stuff like that. It shows me there's lack of leadership, there's a lack of planning, and could that be any coincidence that we've got rid of our scouting system? And maybe that might be the reason why we're in such disarray. Maybe. So it looks like we are very close, or we are in discussions to talk to Buendia, and he does look like the most likely player to join us come January. Another player that's been spoken about is Julian Brandt of Borussia Dortmund, and the Borussia Dortmund chief executive Michael Zorc has come out and spoken, and as mentioned, there's been no contact yet between Borussia Dortmund and Arsenal over the potential transfer of Julian Brandt. And that's because there were rumours from the UK media outlet that on Friday Mikel Arteta personally spoke to Brandt about joining Arsenal. I don't know if I really agree with that. Am I a big fan of Brandt? Not really. He's very inconsistent. Does remind me a lot of Mesut Ozil. Do we really want another Mesut Ozil player? Another question I'd like to ask you guys out there, and this is going to be a very, very interesting one. If you could either pick one, yeah, Buendia or Brandt, who would it be? If you could answer that, please, and if there's anyone else you would prefer, if you could follow that up by, I would pick Buendia over Brandt because however, I would choose this player because this player is so much better than the two you mentioned. And the only reason I mentioned the two because these are the two players that we've linked with the most. Yeah, and that's it for the transfer window news and stuff like that. Yes, apologies guys. Hopefully I'll try be more sort of regular with my content and stuff. But in the meantime, please like and subscribe. And thank you for having me back. And lastly, I wish you all a blessed year for 2021. And may God make it a great one for all of us and for all our family and loved ones. Take care guys. All the best.